Hello, and welcome back to the ministry. And today we're talking about how God forces you to grow up. God has a way of forcing you to grow up in ways that to you may seem a little bit unconventional. Sometimes I always used to feel like I was arrested in development. Through certain seasons of my life, I felt like I should have been farther, grown farther, been through things quicker, made it through certain milestones faster, and some milestones I still haven't passed yet. And when God takes the wheel and you allow him to, and you're growing through Christ, he puts you on a path that may not be the one that which you expected to go through, but he's growing you irregardless. And he grows you in phases. I remember I was talking to my coach one time, and she said that um, he breaks you in levels, and it always stuck with me. I look at other people. I look at my coach. She never stays in a season longer than about 3 months. Me, I would stay in a season for about 13 months. Once I stayed in a season for about 39 months. The following season was about 13 months. And then the season to follow that was this season, which has been almost 14 to 15 months. But in it, I went through micro breakings that would last a few months, and I'd be shifted in a few months. I'd be shifted before 5 months. I'd be shifted somewhere else within that same season. When God is elevating you, he's growing you. And with every level, you elevate to a new thing, a new place, a new surrounding, a new set of people are allotted to be around you in that set season. You can realize that you're growing through the way and the people that surround you in that season. I remember in 2015, I wrote my book, which is about 7 years ago. And when I sat down and I wrote that book in 6 weeks, I went through it, I processed it, and so on and so forth. I thought that certain things were going to happen in a timely manner after I wrote the book. But I actually was only introduced to my coach right after I finished writing the book. There's a certain level of growth that you go through. As I went through mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and social growth, God puts you through sets of lessons, teachings, tests, and you have to go through an era of patience to get through that point in order to reach the success, in order for you to break through each level and the mindset change of the previous level that will take you to the next level that will break off the old beliefs and belief systems that are no longer serving you. As you grow, you will shift into something different. You will shift into something new. And the catch to that is God never tells you how many times he's going to test you or put you through trials. But as long as you are living and as long as you are growing and scaling, you are always going to go through seasons of testing and trials. You may have a season of rest, but the next season is going to be some more testing and trials, because he's got to test your one, comfort zone, and your growth. You cannot grow if you are not tested. You cannot grow if you get comfortable where you are. So God never tells you how many times you're going to go through these tests, and it's like you're chasing a proverbial carrot that's just out of your reach. But you will have to stay there until you elevate in your maturity level in order for you to reach and receive and be able to handle that once you get to it. It's not that he's trying to tease you with that thing. It's not that he's trying to prevent you from having that thing. He's trying to make sure that you're mature enough to handle that thing. I know that throughout years, as I've been walking with the Lord, that there are things that I wondered, like, God, I wrote that book 7 years ago. God, I wrote that book, and God didn't give me the next steps as to what I was supposed to do with it. There's certain things that I didn't get till 4 years ago. I didn't get the name of the book till 4 years ago. And it wasn't until early this year I get the program formula for that book. That ordered me the ability to create the website, to be able to create certain things. But some things I was not asking the Lord for. I wasn't asking, hey, God, is there a site I can go to and create a cover for free? Because a lot of people will tell you that, oh, you shouldn't use the free thing. You shouldn't do that. If that's your tax bracket in that season and you're supposed to be moving forward, you get the free thing. You don't pay somebody to design your book covers. Because I was looking at something where the person was like, oh, we'll do your book covers and this, that, and the other, and we'll show you how to X, Y, and Z these things. Come to find out, the very program they trying to get you to pay for is the same program I found for free. That they use it for free. But see, you got to elevate to that level of preparedness and preparation in order to be able to walk in the things in which God is preparing to give you, because he's preparing to open doors for you. And sometimes you feel like you went through all of this to get to this door, and when the door opens, you're like, this don't look much different than the last season I was in. What do you mean that I elevated? Because you've only grown just a little bit. And you're going through things, but you find that as you're going through things, that you may predict that it's going to take this much time, but God shows you that your prediction is wrong. And the fact that it may take you a year to go through preparing, it may take you 2 years to go through pruning and purging, it may take you 3 years in order to get your mindset right. And that only depends on the fact of if you're willing to follow the Lord and let God mold your life in order to help you determine in which the length of the trials are going to be. But you can make the decision how long that's going to be if you come into alignment and agreement with the obedience that it takes in order for you to get through that season. I was in one season of my life for 3 years, and it was not an easy season. The next place I was in for 13 months. Well, actually, yeah, it's June of 1 year, June of, because it's June to September, then it was September through the end of that year, and then it was through to the following August. So yeah, that was 1 year, 13 months. I was moving around in the same inside of the same building 3-4 times, so it may have felt like it was longer. But in the breaking and in the elevation, because the one thing I noticed is I may have started on one floor, but the next location I ended up was in a higher floor than the last one. I started out on the 11th floor, went to the 16th floor, and then ended up on the 21st floor. Elevation. And it was through the elevation I came to the understanding of my growth. I was listening to India Reed the other day, and she was saying this, and even my coach said this less than a week ago. And they were all coming to the understanding is we've all been through things, but when we take the time to look back at the time and the experiences and our lives that we went through, we're like, wow, look at what I've accomplished even when I was going through those experiences. When I look back at how far I've come, yes, it may not have been easy, but you learn through your obedience that it gives you time to gain your understanding, the journey, the fullness of the moment of growth and plateaus. You keep going, you keep chasing, keep climbing. But the most important thing you have is the Lord allows you to have coaches, mentors, and the support system. For some people, the coach is maybe somebody you're watching on television. For some people, it may be somebody you're reading about in a book. For some people, you may have the blessedness of being able to connect with a coach. For some people, you may have a support system of a circle of friends, but the way I've seen God work is during certain seasons, He even takes you away from the support system of the friends that you're associated with, because He needs to deal with you so that you can grow and elevate. And it was so funny last night. Yesterday, I was listening to something that Tiffany Montgomery had, and she was like, I need y'all to watch this. I need you to watch this by tonight. And I sat down, I watched it, and I was like, this was from a year ago, but everything she said, I remember actually happening this year. I completely forgot she said that. I remember I had done a purpose plan with her 2-3 years ago, and 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago, I went back and I looked at that purpose plan. I was like, wait, I saw this happen already. Some of this stuff I already seen happen. This is how you know that person is anointed, because the thing that which they told you and you sat down and wrote your plans on, it's already coming to pass. Sometimes we can get caught up in the fact that we're constantly writing notes and business plans and this and that and the other thing, because we're constantly trying to keep up with what the Lord is showing us and downloading us and doing all of this kind of stuff, as God is also preparing, pruning us and giving us mentorial help. And then some season He pulls us back and He says, hey, I know I done gave you a lot. I know I done gave you mentors and all this kind of stuff. But how about you go back and look at what I already gave you and see? There are things that I've come up with in the past year, being disconnected from my coach to the level that I was comfortable with, that I came to the understand, what did she already gave me that I'm not doing? What is it that she's already given me wisdom in that I'm not doing? And it's sometimes like a child, when they come into the understanding your parent already gave you that. and you wanted to be kind of rebellious and say, well, I'm not going to do that. And she literally was talking about this the other day. It's like people will get accustomed and comfortable with you to a degree that uh, they aren't really listening to you no more. They'll become accustomed with you that they'll go and pay somebody else way more when you're right there. And you may not have even had them pay that much to you for the exact same pieces of information. And she's right. People, we do that. For some reason, it makes us feel like we're accomplishing something if we're paying somebody more money for the same pieces of information if it looks more professional. That's the one thing I noticed that other gurus will tell you. They'll say, you need to make your stuff look more professional. You just spend the money to put stuff together to make it look more professional. And even she has said that people have told her to make stuff look more professional. But it's not about how professional that it looks. It's about, does it do the work? Because you could spend $10,000 on making something look professional and it don't do nothing. But you can pay somebody $2,000 that's got an anointing on them that it is. Because sometimes your breakthrough is attached to a person, not specifically to you getting to a place. These people become your midwives. You go through level by level and people change, ever growing. And you're learning throughout the experience. But you need these people to push you. You may be scared to be pushed, but when it feels like it's gotten too hard and you're too tired and they have compassion to get you through and you celebrate together. Because you need the place to celebrate and triumph together. When you reach the promise, you look back at how far you've come, how you've persevered, how you've survived. That's what I'm saying. You've been through, but you've come a distance already. Sometimes we don't recognize it because of the warfare, because the season don't look like we wanted it to look. Some of us, and I've had those moments. I've had those moments where I literally have asked the Lord, why is it that I had to go through a season that I had to be in that type of living situation, in that type of experience, in that type of financial constraints? God, you own a cattle on 1,000 hills. You could have put me in an X, Y, and Z location. You could have put me, there was a location that I went to temporarily for a short period of time that the entire environment seemed better. But he ended up taking me back to the same place I was. Now, the situation, the exposure, and the amount of people that were in the place and the space that I was in, But the Lord will shift you, and the Lord will put you in certain places for certain seasons. I went to a monastery for 3 weeks. Yeah. People don't know my story. I was literally living with nuns for 3 weeks. And he will take you and put you in certain places. But sometimes if you recognize that as you are going, God elevated you. Sometimes God will drop you in a valley when you get to that new location, but you may look at it, I'm back at where I was. No, you're not back at where you were. You finally reached a level of elevation that when you went to where you were all the way at the bottom. You managed to climb out of that with the Lord's help of elevating you up, up, and up. The location changed, ended up in a much better living situation. You went up, then you ended up back in the place in which you started from, and you're kind of like, but I'm back where I started from. No, you elevated from that to a living space that was a different kind of living space. You went from a hotel to an apartment that you weren't paying for. But nobody looks at it like that. They look at, hey, I'm back in the place that I started from. No, you no longer are at a hotel. You're in an apartment. Prior to that, you were no longer in a shelter. You were in a hotel. God elevated you each time, but your gratitude might have been like, wait, I'm back where I was.